A lot of singers, when they're performing live, if you've got a sound man and he's got a nice digital desk these days, quite likely you will be singing through compression. You'll be performing with compression and gating and EQ and reverb and everything on your thing. So you're used to performing live with it, and you're used to that sound. When you go in the studio, you kind of got to get a sound that the musician's used to and likes.
You're listening to the Inside the Mix podcast with your host, Mark Matthews.
Hey folks, welcome to Inside the Mix, or welcome back if you're a returning listener. Today's episode is inspired by a question from one of our listeners. And the question is this, it's from an anonymous source, sent by a message. Do you record with compression going in? So if you've ever second-guessed whether to track your vocals with compression or any other instrument really, or worried you're doing more harm than good, you're in the right place. And joining me is my good friend Tim Benson, aka IL9, hot off the release of his album Paradise Cove. What is it, 19th of August? A couple of weeks ago, I think it was, 2 or 3 weeks?
1st of August, Friday the 1st,
Yeah, there we go. So I'll pop a link in the episode description. Audience, go and check that out. I think with Spotify now as well, you can actually add it directly in the episode, which is quite an interesting feature of Spotify podcasts. And you may have noticed, audience, listen, a bit of a tangent here, that I've actually uploaded video to Spotify. I'm trialing that to see how it goes. I won't lie, it is an extra step in the production phase, but I'm wondering if it is of benefit. If you listen to this podcast on Spotify, you can actually watch it on Spotify now as well. So I'm trialing that to see what the engagement's like with that. Yeah, welcome back, Tim. How are you? How are things?
Yeah, not too bad. Enjoying life in the sunny southwest. It's been very nice and hot and hard to be in a studio when it's beautiful outside. So I've been taking the dogs on excessively long walks. It's been good.
Yeah, it's
busy promoting the album, and it was good to get that done, and sort of it was really exciting. I really enjoyed the release. It was good. Yeah,
it's a fantastic piece. The opening track, I love the opening instrumental on that. It's very good. I think the Lighthouse.
Yeah, you said you liked the Lighthouse.
I think it was the Lighthouse. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the sort of track further down that you really liked. Had a big lead synth on it. Yeah,
that was it. Yeah, that was it. Again, I'll put a link to that in the show notes for the audience. Go check that one out.
The opener was one of those tracks that went really well, that everyone seems to like. So it's funny, isn't it? I was one of those kind of things when you're putting an album together. I spent ages thinking it's got to sort of have a good opener, because there's nothing worse than an album that the first track means you just go I won't listen to the rest of this. So I was trying to make something epic for the beginning. It's good.
I haven't released a lot of singles. I think it was about a couple of years ago almost that I released the EP. You forget that when you release a body of music, that opening track could really make or break. I mean, you get the diligent listener that might listen beyond it, if it doesn't quite hit the mark. But what with today's consumer market, I think there is a tendency that if it doesn't hit straight away, onto the next one, which is
Sorry, my creaky studio chair there. Must buy a new chair. It's terrible.
I think the last time it was seagulls. I think it was seagulls.
No. Well, I've shut the window today, so you're not getting seagulls. But
I've rescued 2 outside the studio. In the past month, I rescued 2 seagulls.
The babies, the big sort of babies that get lost. Yeah.
One had a broken wing. I had to put it in a box and take it to the vet. And another one had a broken foot.
Oh.
So again, I had to put it in a box and take it to the vet. But I just cannot walk past and just see the seagull there.
No.
Yeah, it's mad. There's a lot of people around here, and I'm just thinking, how has nobody else seen this, man? But I'm not going to get on my soapbox, but yeah.
The biggest problem around here with if you go near a baby seagull is all the other seagulls come and attack you. My wife had to hide in the shed while a whole load bombed her for trying to attack. She was trying to save this poor seagull, and all the rest of them went full attack mode. So there we go.
Yeah, luckily I didn't experience that, which I hadn't thought of. There are a lot of seagulls around here, so thankfully I wasn't. They didn't descend on me. I had one attack me once. I was in, was it Port Isaac? Somewhere down in Cornwall, and I had an ice cream, and a seagull came out of nowhere, smacked me in the face, and just had this massive beak mark in my ice cream. I was warned, but there we go. Anyway, we'll move on to the topic of compression.
Moving on to the
seagulls.
topic of compression rather than seagulls. Yeah.
But before we do that, folks, if you've got a question about music production, music industry, anything music related, to be honest, we'd love to hear it. Click the link in the episode description to send a quick voice note, or you can just click send me a message, and it's basically just like sending a text. Share your website or socials. Alternatively, you can just do it anonymously if you want, and get your question featured on the podcast, and we'll endeavour to answer it. So we're talking about compression. Going in when we're recording. I mean, in my notes here, I've got vocals because I've not done it a massive amount, to be honest, when it comes to recording and using compression whilst recording. I think we've had this conversation before about using time-based approach like reverb just to sweeten a vocal when a vocalist is recording, for example. But recording vocals with compression going in. So let's use the idea that we're recording vocals. Is it something that you do? Is it something that you've done extensively in the past? Because I know you come from that extensive studio background.
Yeah. Yes, I have to say, when I had my recording studio set up, my sort of main thing for recording vocals was actually a Focusrite sort of channel that I used a lot, which basically had sort of mic pre, and then it had built-in compression, EQ, and everything going in. And I mean, I would use that. It had a sort of optical compressor on it. It was quite gentle. It wasn't a brutal sort of compression. I mean, it could be. I mean, you could really crank it, but it was quite sort of just smooth things out nicely. And I think I did used to track with compression on the way in. I mean, obviously, years and years ago, going back, people used to track with compression going in onto tape or whatever to get a more steady level actually onto the tape in the first place, to get better level when they recorded onto tape, because they could get they could actually get a steady level so that they didn't get noise from the tape. They got a really good level onto the tape. That isn't really a problem that we have these days.
Well,
we don't want to sort of, worry too much about level. We can up and down level as long as you've got a reasonable level going into anything digital. You don't need to worry. So, were
you printing the compression in the studio when you were using the Focusrite?
I was, yes. So I would go straight through that and print that compression onto the. I was recording into my DAW and record that as I went. It sort of is a risky thing to do in a way, I suppose, because if you get it wrong, you can't go back and you can't take it off. But I think it does affect, what I found was it affected how the singer felt when they're singing into the mic and they've got a bit of compression. They kind of work with that compression a little bit, and it can help a lot of singers. It evens things out. It gives them a fuller sound when they're tracking. You give them a little bit of sweetening reverb and EQ, you just get a really good sound in their headphones. And I think for a lot of talent, that was great. Having a really, really nice sound in their headphones made them sing better, made them hear the detail of what they were doing in the track better and perform better. But I didn't do anything wild with it. I didn't do, sort of something that I knew was going to be detrimental. Pretty much knew wasn't going to be detrimental later on. But it is an argument now that we've got. I think I was saying to you before we rolled that, basically, if you're using various sort of things like, Versal Audio, have got interfaces, or you could just be using plugins in your DAW now, that you don't actually need to track with compression, but you can still listen to compression when you track. So you can listen through a plugin and work with compression as you're recording, but you're not actually tracking that into the signal. So that is an option now. You don't have to burn it on. Whereas for me, that really wasn't much of an option. I was like tracking through a channel which had compression on it. And I mean, a lot of channels have, like, you know, you go through an Avalon preamp or something, it will have a preamp, it'll have a compressor on it and EQ, you know, and a lot of classic vocal channels, really good vocal channels in studios, would be built that way. And I mean, Universal Audio makes some as well that work that way. There's one that's got, forgotten what it is, 176 or something. It's got the compressor of the 1176 in it.
Yeah.
But it's got a tube sort of preamp on it. So there are quite a lot of these ones that are all in one, as it were, vocal channels. And I guess the idea is you do track with a little bit of compression on, but it's not that you have to.
Yeah, well, this is it. That's the sort of recording realm that we live within now, is that you can do all this whilst recording. As I think we had this conversation on a couple of episodes ago about, I can't remember what the episode was regards to, where we were talking about doing it at the time and then removing it. I think it was reverb, to be fair, on vocal, and then just having it playing and then being able to remove it further down the line because it's not printed on that particular track. But I'm wondering, have you ever, because you were talking there about printing it, and to be fair, I can't think of a time that I've ever used one. Maybe I need to look into it more and use it in a creative sort of way. But an expander. So
an expander.
Yeah,
actually,
printed.
Yeah, did have one. Did have an expander on one of these units I had. No, because that would be upward sort of compression, wouldn't it? Yeah,
that's increasing the dynamic
range. Yeah. No, I never used one of them.
No. Neither have I. Just thinking about it then.
But I think it could be interesting in some circumstances, yeah.
I think the advice would generally be, like, don't print it with compression.
Yeah, generally don't print it.
Rely on an expander to undo it. But I suppose because you'd have to... again, never done it, but in theory, right, if you've printed the compression to the signal, to the audio, you then need to mirror the dynamic range before using the expander, and that must be quite hard to do, to dial that in and get it exactly how it was before.
No.
There we go, audience listening, give it a go and see if you can undo compression that's printed. That's a nice task for someone to do of an evening, and do some compression using the expander, see if you can match it verbatim.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound compressed anymore. I mean, I think for a lot of people, like, the sensible thing is, if you're not sure, is to not use compression when you record things. But when you get used to stuff, it's like people used to say that with, you know, when I was tracking a drum kit, it'd be like, you know, do you record with EQ or maybe a little bit of compression on the way in? And the answer is, I mean, I wouldn't record drums generally with compression on. That wasn't something I often did, but occasionally, but generally not. But I would, like, start to EQ my drums a little bit. I just got used to what I wanted in there and what I didn't want in there, and I got so used to knowing how the sound was going to be when I mixed it. I was used to my mics and my room and everything else, that I would make some of those decisions as I tracked it. It didn't mean I didn't use more in the mix, but it was just like, you know, I was like, I'm going to want a bit of weight at 80 hertz in my kick drum, so I'll put some weight in. I mean, what's the worst? I could always reduce a little bit of it if I put too much in later on, but at the end of the day, a lot of the time it meant that the drums were just already sounding, you know, pretty nice on playback without me having to do further processing on them. So, you know, I would make that decision, and I think you can do the same with vocals. But vocals is something where compression changes the way it's weird. I mean, it's like when you perform live now, for instance, this is something worth bearing in mind. A lot of singers, when they're performing live, if you've got a sound man and he's got a nice digital desk these days, quite likely you will be singing through compression. You'll be performing with compression and gating and you know, EQ and reverb and everything on your thing. So you're used to performing live with it. You're used to that sound. When you go in the studio, you kind of got to get a sound that the musician's used to and likes, so that you get the best performance out of them. And I find that a little bit of compression can sometimes really make you perform differently, and it can be really good for a lot of people because it brings up those quiet things that you're not, the details and things a little bit more, and it just brings down some of the sort of when you go a bit too hard on something, it just tames it a little bit. So but we're only talking a little touch of it.
That's what I was going to say next, is like how much, and in my head I'm thinking like very light sort of compression, really. I like the use of using
3 to
an optical
6 dB maybe at the most.
Using an optical compressor as well. I love optical compressors, always has done.
They're good, aren't they?
That's the way I see using it. And I think also as well, you've got to think about the vocalist, because I think there's an element of like, you can do, I was going to say manual compression then, and just have the vocalist in terms of their distance from the microphone, controlling that, and the way the vocalist is performing. So if you've got a vocalist who's just wildly, the dynamic range is wild, rather than think, oh, I'm just going to slap a compressor on it, you might want to consider
work on
where they are standing with regards to the microphone. Because I've had that. Sorry, mate, go ahead.
No, I think that makes a huge difference. I totally agree with you. Yeah.
I've had projects submitted, and even before I've listened to the project, I can see the vocal track, and I can see just looking at the waveform, I can see this is not a controlled performance.
No,
it's pretty wild. And then I go in with clip gain before I even think of a compressor, and try and get some evenness.
I've been doing that this week, and the vocal was a really lovely vocal, but like wildly different between different parts of it. So I had to go straight in with clip automation before I think of putting any compression on it, to get everything sitting in a relatively even thing. And you're right, if you get your mic technique good, then you can lean in for your nice soft proximity effect, and you can come away when you're really going for it hard, because that's a nightmare when it's something I used to get a lot with rock vocalists who'd sort of sing out their heart right into a sort of, capacitor mic or something, and you'd just be like, just come off the mic as you really go for it. But a lot of people hadn't in the studio maybe sort of tried those things, and you can just work on them quite quickly, and a lot of people respond to it quite well, start to sort of find out, where the sweet spot is to sing, where depending on where they are in their range and what note they're going for and how close to the mic they are. But that's a massive thing, that mic technique. It makes a huge difference on how good a vocal sounds. There is a nice feeling when you have a project submitted, and then you see, it's not just vocals as well, I guess it's any instrument, you can just see a nice even performance. It's going to be a relatively pleasureful. That's a word, is it? Pleasureful mix. Mixing scenario. Pleasurable.
Pleasurable. That's the word I was looking for.
Pleasurable mix.
It's been a long day. It's probably that walnut bread I had before coming back to haunt me. So I don't know if there's necessarily much more we need to dive into, to be honest, with regards to recording compression going in. I think the current lay of the land is such that we don't need to print it, for one.
No.
I think what you mentioned just then, actually, about the live performance, I appreciate not everybody's got the opportunity to go and mix a live performance, but I think that's a really good way of learning how to use compression, for example, and EQ, and just mix in general. I think I had this conversation with Mike Exeter on the podcast, and he said the same thing. It's a really good way to go and learn, because I remember doing a few front of house gigs and having to do live sound mixing. And if you can do it, it's worth doing. But where I was going with that is a slight tangent. You don't need to print it. I think we agreed on sort of light compression and vocal performance as well. Monitor the vocalist performance. I think those are the three key things in general. But I don't think I've missed anything.
I mean, it's interesting as well, like you sort of would discuss vocals, but you could look at it with bass and acoustic guitar as well, and things. And again, it can be sort of bass. I had a tendency of recording bass and guitars with compression, but a lot of the time that might be like, guitar, like lots of guitarists will have a compressor in their rig, like as a sort of before they go into the amp. Lots of bassists will have compressors on their rigs going into the amp. So those things quite often get recorded with bits of compression on them, and it can be part of how people play and interact with the thing. Is like, when you play with the guitar and it's got lots of compression on it, it has a lot more sustain. It feels different. So if you're used to recording and playing like that, you probably wouldn't necessarily want to take that off when you're recording. But you might want to go like, that cavernous ton of reverb you're putting on this. Maybe if that isn't very sort of signature to the sound and we could put it on afterwards, we might record without the time-based effects. And then you sort of put that on afterwards rather than recording it on the amp or whatever. But I think when it comes to dynamics, definitely some of these things become part of the sound you're making. It's the same with vocals. But I am wary of it on acoustic guitars recording. I did used to track with a little bit of compression, but you have to be so careful with acoustics, like that you don't over compress the thing. And then you've got this munched acoustic guitar that you can't do anything with, really.
Yeah, I've always been of a mind to let acoustic guitars breathe.
Yeah,
I think with acoustic. Yeah. I haven't recorded an acoustic in years. I used to love experimenting with mic position.
Yeah,
like using a couple mics. The neck, the body of the guitar, all these different positions. You can get some, and then just trying different configurations of the microphones. I did that, audience listening, you're not watching this, I did an X with my hands from an XY position of a microphone. I don't even know, that's what I did there. I did that thinking everyone could see me. But yeah, I'd love to get back into doing that again, but I really don't do much recording these days. It's all post-production, but maybe at some point.
One thing I never really managed to make work, as well as like it appears on the movies or whatever, is like that wonderful thing where all the backing vocalists are just, the band are all round one mic and it just sounds amazing. It's like 9 times out of 10 that's to be avoided. They all sound awful. Like when there'll be 3 of them will sound great and one person will be out of tune, and there's nothing you can do to save that later on. So beware of the gang vocal. But no, it can be good fun. But if you want a proper gang vocal sound, not like a sweet, harmony sound, but it works when you've got backing vocalists, professional backing vocalists. They're amazing at balancing themselves and singing in tune and harmonising. But most of us, mere mortals, take a bit more more post-production to get us to sound that sweet. So
I've only ever done gang vocals once. I think I did it on the album, and I think I mentioned this on a previous episode. And it was like some spoken word, and it was very hungover, so my voice was even lower than it usually is. And it's like this really sort of ominous, ethereal spoken. I can't even remember what we said. It's on a track somewhere. That was quite interesting. But luckily, we didn't have to be in tune. It was just some spoken word, thankfully, because if we had to be in tune, it would have been fucked, basically. Because I can't sing for shit.
No.
Which is a shame. But there we go. There we go, folks. I think we've wrapped up compression then. Always fun to talk about these topics. So if you do have a question that you would like to hear us hash out and attempt to answer on the podcast, again, please click the link in the episode description. Send us a voice note. Alternatively, just send a message. Click the send a message. It's just like sending a text. You can give us some details in there and get your question featured on the podcast. Tim, it's been a pleasure. Have you got any news, anything on the horizon? I know you just released the album, but anything else?
Yeah, I'm taking a slight break, but I'm beginning to think what my next single is going to be like. So I'll be working on that probably in the next week or two. And then, I need to get something out sort of by the beginning of next month, hopefully. And I will be working on, I was talking to you about maybe mixing in a bit more 90s, because apparently I'm kind of quite a 90s boy, so there might be a bit more 90s influence in some stuff coming up, but we'll see. Yeah.
It's popular at the moment. It certainly is. Got one. I'm mixing, hopefully this weekend actually, mixing my next track, Narcissist. I haven't got a release date. I have aimed for the 2nd or 3rd week of September, hopefully, to get that released. And then another one quickly after that as well, which I've started. But I'm also going to start writing a Halloween themed, horror themed tune. I don't know how that's going to end up, but I've already got a title for it. I've got to call it Nosferatu because I do like the film Nosferatu.
Excellent.
Yeah. Well, in my head, what I was thinking, I thought this the other day. I thought, you know what? I'll just start the track with Willem Dafoe saying Nosferatu, and then it comes in. I'm thinking, in my head, it sounds great, but to others it might sound incredibly cheesy. But anyway, that's my sort of thought process at the moment. So, and then possibly a Christmas song.
Right. Well, I'm writing I'm writing a theme for a horror movie at the moment, actually. Yeah, and I'm possibly going to be. Well, it's looking like we're going to do the whole film, so I may end up writing all the music for the entire film, which would be fun.
Amazing. Is it? Are you able to disclose the sort of type of horror film? Is it like a zombie flick, vampire?
Yeah, I think it's going to be more sort of along the sort of like slasher movie kind of vibe.
Okay, yeah, nice. As a horror fan, I'm always intrigued by what people are up to.
I'm completely the person who's writing the music who's not a horror fan, but like there we go. It's weird. But I say that I actually really love the way music works in horror films. So I love the music aspect, and I love a lot of the kind of the visual sort of some great sort of cinema photography in horror films. So I like that. I'm just a bit squeamish when people start having their heads chopped off. Yeah.
I look forward to listening to that. If you need any feedback, mate, send it across. Myself and Carl are at Neon Highway. I know Carl's a big horror fan as well. So
was aware that you two might be very good people to talk to about this.
Yeah. Indeed. There we go, folks. So yes, do send us a question. And until next time, stay inspired, keep creating, and don't be afraid to experiment inside the mix.